On the wind-swept plains before the towering walls of Troy, two men faced each other. One was Hector, prince of Troy, warrior, husband, father, defender of his people. The other was Achilles, son of the sea goddess Thetis and a mortal king, the greatest warrior the Greeks had ever known, feared by men and touched by the gods. They circled one another under the gaze of thousands. Above them, the gods themselves leaned from Olympus to watch. For years the war had raged, but now it seemed the fate of Troy rested on this duel. The clash of Achilles versus Hector is one of the most famous moments in all storytelling. It is the heart of Homer's Iliad, an epic sung for centuries before being written down. But what was the Trojan War? Did it happen as the poets told it? Was it a legend, a myth, or a memory of real war transformed into timeless story? Today, we journey back to the Bronze Age, to a world of palaces, chariots, and warrior kings. We'll uncover the causes of the Trojan War, follow its heroes and battles, relive the duel of Achilles and Hector in vivid detail, witness the fall of Troy, and explore what archaeology reveals about the truth behind the myth. Because whether real or imagined, the Trojan War endures because it speaks to something eternal in the human soul: pride, love, vengeance, fate, and the desperate struggle to be remembered. So let us return to the year 1184 BC, to the shores of Troy, where legend and history collide. Section 1. The World of the Trojan War. The Trojan War sits at the crossroads of myth and history. Bronze Age setting. Around 1200 BC, the Mediterranean was alive with trade and rivalry. On the Greek mainland, the Mycenaean civilization dominated, a warrior culture of palaces and kings. They built massive fortresses, with walls so huge they were called Cyclopean, as if only giants could raise them. Across the Aegean stood Troy, perched at the entrance to the Dardanelles. Whoever held Troy controlled the trade routes between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. Grain, tin, gold, and luxury goods flowed through this gateway. Troy in history. Archaeology shows Troy was a wealthy, cosmopolitan city with high walls, towers, and sprawling suburbs. It was not just a fortress, but a hub of commerce. To Mycenaean kings, Troy was both rival and prize. Troy in myth. But the war we know is told through myth. Homer's Iliad, composed around 750 BC, was not history, but oral poetry, refined over centuries of storytelling. The Greeks of Homer's time remembered fragments of the Bronze Age, but reshaped them into tales of gods and heroes. Heroic code. In this world, honor and glory, kleos, were everything. A man's worth was measured by his courage in battle and the song sung after his death. To die young but remembered was better than to live long in obscurity. This is why Achilles chose a short life of glory over a long life of peace. This is why Hector, knowing he faced death, still stood before Troy's walls. The Trojan War, therefore, is more than history. It is a mirror of Bronze Age values, immortalized in myth. Section 2. The Spark of War, Mythical Origins. The war began not with soldiers, but with a quarrel among the gods. The Apple of Discord. At the wedding of Peleus and Thetis, the parents of Achilles, the goddess Iris, uninvited, threw a golden apple marked "For the fairest." 3 goddesses claimed it: Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. Unable to choose, they turned to Paris, Prince of Troy, to judge. The judgment of Paris. Each goddess offered him a bribe. Hera promised him dominion over the world. Athena offered him wisdom and victory in war. Aphrodite offered him the love of the most beautiful woman alive. Paris chose Aphrodite, and with that choice he set fate in motion. Helen of Sparta. The woman promised to him was Helen, wife of King Menelaus of Sparta. Some sources say Paris seduced her, others that he abducted her. Either way, when Paris sailed away with Helen to Troy, he brought with him the wrath of Greece. The oath of Tyndareus. Years earlier, all of Helen's suitors had sworn an oath to defend her marriage. Menelaus now invoked it, and kings across Greece rallied. Agamemnon of Mycenae, Menelaus's brother, took command. Odysseus of Ithaca, Ajax of Salamis, Diomedes, and above all, Achilles joined. The expedition with 1,000 ships set sail. But the gods were not united. Hera and Athena, insulted by Paris's choice, sided with the Greeks. Aphrodite and Apollo supported Troy. The Trojan War was never just a human struggle. It was a cosmic quarrel, played out on the plains of Anatolia. Section 3. The Siege of Troy. A war of years. The Greeks landed and besieged Troy for nearly a decade. The war was not a single continuous battle, but a long, grinding struggle. The Greeks raided the countryside, enslaving towns allied with Troy. Heroes fought in duels to decide honor, but neither side gained a final advantage. Heroes of both sides. The Greeks boasted Ajax the Great, Diomedes, cunning Odysseus, and above all, Achilles. Troy had noble Hector, Paris the archer, and Aeneas, said to be destined for survival. Achilles and Agamemnon's quarrel. In the Iliad begins not with the war itself, but with a quarrel between Agamemnon and Achilles. When Agamemnon seized Briseis, Achilles' prize of honor, the insult cut deep. Rage consumed him. Achilles refused to fight, withdrawing to his tent. Without him, the Greeks faltered. Hector pressed the attack, pushing the Greeks back to their ships. Patroclus' death. Desperate, Achilles' closest companion, Patroclus, begged to wear his armor and lead the Myrmidons. Achilles agreed, but warned him not to push too far. Once in battle, Patroclus fought with the fury of Achilles himself, driving the Trojans back. But at the gates of Troy, Hector struck him down. The death of Patroclus changed everything. Achilles' wrath. When word reached Achilles, grief turned to unstoppable wrath. He donned new armor forged by the god Hephaestus, his shield depicting the cosmos itself. He swore vengeance on Hector. The stage was set for the most famous duel in Greek myth. Section 4. The duel, Achilles versus Hector. Hector's choice. Inside Troy, Hector knew his fate. His wife Andromache begged him to stay within the walls. She showed him their infant son, Astyanax, and pleaded, "You are our shield. Do not face him." But Hector felt bound by honor. He could not hide while others died. He told her, "I know I will die here, but better to die fighting than live in shame." When Achilles appeared, his armor blazing, Hector's courage faltered. He fled. Around the city they ran. Once, twice, 3 times, Achilles in pursuit. The gods themselves debated. Should Hector be spared? But fate had decreed otherwise. Athena tricked Hector, appearing as his brother and convincing him to stop. They faced each other. Hector threw his spear. It missed. He turned to his supposed brother for another, but found no one there. He realized too late the gods had abandoned him. Achilles hurled his spear, piercing Hector's neck. As Hector fell, he begged Achilles to return his body to Troy for burial. But Achilles, consumed by rage, refused. He said, "There are no pacts between lions and men." Desecration. Achilles tied Hector's body to his chariot and dragged it around the city. The Trojans wailed from the walls. For days he desecrated the corpse. Priam's Pre. Finally, guided by Hermes, old King Priam went to Achilles' tent. He knelt before the man who killed his son, kissed his hand.
Section 5. The Fall of Troy. The war did not end with Hector's death. Achilles' fate. Achilles himself soon met destiny. As prophesied, he would live a short life of glory. Paris, aided by Apollo, shot an arrow into his only weak spot, his heel. Achilles died, but his legend was sealed forever. The Trojan Horse. Still, Troy's walls held. It was Odysseus who devised the trick that would end it. The Greeks built a giant wooden horse, hollow inside, and filled it with soldiers. They pretended to sail away, leaving the horse as an offering. Despite warnings from the prophetess Cassandra and the priest Laocoon, who declared, "Beware Greeks bearing gifts," the Trojans brought the horse inside. At night, the hidden Greeks emerged, opened the gates, and the army returned. The sack. Troy burned. Priam was slaughtered. Women and children were enslaved. Andromache lost her son, hurled from the walls. Cassandra was dragged away despite her prophecies. The great city was no more. Section 6. Myth, Memory, and Archaeology. But was the Trojan War real? Homer's epics. The Iliad and Odyssey were composed around 750 BC, centuries after the supposed war. They were not history, but epic poetry. Yet such stories often preserve distant memories. Schliemann's excavation. In the 19th century, Heinrich Schliemann excavated Hisarlik in Turkey. Beneath the mound lay layers of cities. One, destroyed around 1200 BC, showed evidence of fire and battle. The historical kernel. Most scholars now believe the Trojan War reflects real conflicts. Mycenaean Greeks likely clashed with Anatolian cities over trade routes. Perhaps there was no single Helen or Achilles, but there were wars that left echoes in memory. The Trojan War, then, is both myth and memory, real struggles transformed into eternal legend. Section 7. Legacy of Achilles and Hector. The duel of Achilles and Hector has never been forgotten. Achilles represents the heroic pursuit of glory, even at the cost of compassion. He is terrifying, magnificent, and tragic. His rage makes him almost inhuman. Hector represents humanity itself, bound by duty, love, and honor, even in the face of certain death. He is the warrior we can relate to, the tragic figure who fights not for himself, but for others. Their clash embodies two visions of heroism, glory versus sacrifice. For centuries, poets, artists, and historians have returned to this story. Shakespeare echoed their names. Modern cinema retold their duel. Archaeologists still dig at Troy, inspired by their legend. The Trojan War endures because it asks timeless questions. What is true honor? Is glory worth more than life? Do we fight for ourselves or for those we love? Picture it again, the plain before Troy, the dust, the sun, the clash of bronze. Hector falls, Achilles triumphs, but in his triumph, he is already doomed. The Trojan War may be part myth, part memory, but its themes are eternal. Pride, love, vengeance, duty, rage, and sacrifice, the need to be remembered. So who was the greater hero? Achilles, who won eternal glory but lost his humanity? Or Hector, who knew he would die but faced fate with courage? Perhaps that is why the story still grips us, because in the end, the Trojan War is not about gods or legends. It is about us, our choices, our rage, our love, and our longing to leave a mark on the world. And so the duel of Achilles and Hector echoes across 3,000 years, reminding us that even in myth, there is truth.